World leaders at the G7 summit in France are calling for greater pressure on Russia to end more than 4 years of war in Ukraine. The conflict dominated discussions on the second day of the gathering, with the U.S. signaling it could reimpose sanctions on Russian oil exports. Cullen filed this report for CNA from the summit in Évian.
Well, the European leaders here at the G7 summit on Tuesday tried to use their meetings with the US president to urge Donald Trump to take a harder line with Moscow to try to force President Putin to the negotiating table. And the US president did signal that he was ready now to have a more intensive focus on trying to solve the Russia-Ukraine conflict now that he felt that the US-Iran issue was pretty much sorted. He said that the US-Iran conflict was disappearing into the rear view mirror. Volodymyr Zelensky and Donald Trump had a one-on-one meeting here in Évian on Tuesday, and the Ukrainian leader saying that Kyiv is ready to meet a Russian delegation at any time to try to establish a ceasefire.
I think this is very important thing. Try to organize meeting before the winter. Got it. It was terrible winter for us, but you have to understand it. We don't want to go through the same winter, and Russia has to know that we had terrible winter, and they will have also not simple. So I think there is my proposition: dialogue.
The UAE, Qatar and Egypt were all also invited guests here at the G7 Leaders Summit on Tuesday, and they all had the chance for one-on-one sit-downs with the US president to further scrutinise President Trump about the details of the US-Iran Memorandum of Understanding, the impact on the Gulf, the post-conflict situation regarding the Strait of Hormuz, which Donald Trump says will be completely open once the deal is signed, and that Memorandum of Understanding is due to be formally signed in Switzerland on Friday.
That's good document. Here's what it says: Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. That's what it says. It won't have one. To buy, to develop, they will not have a nuclear weapon. And I would say that's about 99.9% of what I wanted.
There were other bilateral meetings taking place on Tuesday, including the host President Emmanuel Macron holding talks with the Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi. It was her first G7 summit since taking office last year. On Wednesday, for the final day of the summit, the focus will turn to global GDP, with Emmanuel Macron leading a charge to try to ensure a more balanced sharing of economic growth. And there will also be a session on the safety and deployment of artificial intelligence. For CNA, I'm Cullen in Évian.